Everyone, we are about to begin, but just want to let you know that they are selling the Pride shirts in the back. So if you see Heather Campbell, a member of the committee, they encourage you to purchase your Pride shirts. Yep. Also, if you begin to take your seats so we can start on time. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. No. Oh, no. So we're going to wait on Lorraine. Get Tanny on the phone. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so it's like 1:59 now. I said it's 1:59. I'm looking for. Okay. All right, if you will please take your seats. If you would please take your seats. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello. All right. I know there's a great level of excitement. All right, listen up. Hello. Flat tire. Flat tire. Flat tire. Oh, it works, Elena. All right. Thank you. Awesome. I think that compliments the stage for this. Good stuff. Good afternoon, everyone. All right. My name is Gregory Dawson. I have the true pleasure of hosting our June staff meeting. So I'd like to welcome each of you who have come downstairs, and also for those who are watching us via online or on a conference call. So welcome, everyone. All right. Woo, let's have some fun. All right, so when I accepted the opportunity, one of the things that we did was establish goals. And so we have 3 broad goals: to start on time, so I think we've accomplished that, to make sure that there's a delicate balance of my southern dialect, so if you don't understand, just work with me, and then to make you laugh. So those are the 3 goals that we've established. So with that being said, I know that we have a great agenda that's before us. There are a lot of things, and thank you for those of you who came in early and had an opportunity to purchase one of the Pride t-shirts in the back. Heather and crew, I'm sure that they're very thankful for that. So we will go ahead and get started. And the first item that's on our agenda, as always, is to welcome our new hires. So as we advance through the slides, if you're present, we ask that you stand and wave, and for those on the phone, we say hello and welcome to you. So our new hires for this quarter. All right. Welcome to the movement. Teacher our new hires. All right. Next we'll have Ms. Lorraine Orr, who will provide to us our organizational report. So Lorraine Orr, our Chief Operating Officer. Come on down, Lorraine.
Now I understand why you were looking at me when I came in.
I was like, there she is. I was like beginning to sweat here.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Wow. Are there any more seats in? There's a lot of people standing in the back. Here's some up front, like the very first row, if anybody's interested. All right. Y'all good back there? All right. All right, fantastic. So first, let me do this. Jim sent me a note a few minutes ago and wanted me to let you guys know that he's sorry he cannot be here. As some of you know, Sam is out of town, so he's on kid duty in Milwaukee. So he wanted me to thank you for everything that you do every single day on behalf of millions of young people across the nation. So I wanted to pass that message along, so when you see him, let him know that I delivered that message for him. So three things I want to accomplish today in terms of the organization report. One, we always start with celebrating our own, so we'll start with some milestone anniversaries. Two, obviously given that our values define who we are as an organization, we will present the I Care Collaboration Award. And finally, I want to spend just a little bit of time talking to you about 2018. Obviously, is mid-year, but we just shared all of the final results of 2018 with the board at our board meeting last month at the national conference, and also give you a quick peep into 2019 and some of the goals in which many So if I call your name, you can stand up wherever you are. So starting with 5 years of service, we have Blanca Ramos with Financial Services, Stephen Comer with Information Technology, and Davita Selby with Marketing and Communications. And Sean, don't be mad at me, I didn't forget you, but Sean Dorsey also in field operations out in the Pacific West, 5 years of service. Yeah, go ahead, please. 10 years, as you see here, Vanessa Maxwell with field operations, Denisha Cunningham with youth development. 10 years of service. 15 years, we have two people, Julie Gannell and Alden Ward. 20 years of service, Carl Kaiser with marketing and communications. And Karen Lodi with Marketing and Communication. 30 years of service. I don't know if Paula's in the room, but Paula Mecklenburg with the Southeast region. Not sure if Glenn is on the phone, but Glenn Permoy, who many of you know, 55 years of service to the Boys and Girls Club movement. And we'll also, since July is just right around the corner, we'll also recognize Greer Horn if she's here in the room for 5 years of service coming up in July. All right. Next order of business, the Eye Care Collaboration Awards. And as you guys know, we present this award every staff meeting. And this month's award, it goes to the 2019 National Conference Team. I mean, yeah, go ahead, please. I mean, as you guys all know, that event is, and it is an event. It is something that all of us, each and every one of you, are involved in here. But the people on the screen, this is the group that worked especially hard to make this an event to remember by our local clubs and customers who showed up this year at the national conference. And I will tell you that knowing many of these folks here, and obviously John Miller that leads this was not in replace of. This is in addition to the normal jobs that they do here at Boys and Girls Clubs of America every single day. And if you were there, if you tuned in here, you know, again, it is a production. Many months of work go into this. For some folks, like who I'll call up to receive the award for everybody, they start, I mean, literally the day after the conference is over last year, they start with the planning for the following year, and they're already doing the same thing for the 2020 conference. So I would like to congratulate and thank everybody on the screen for all of the work that you guys did to make this, I believe, one of our best conferences ever. I will tell you, my text messages, emails, etc., from during the conference to well after the conference was just lighting up from people in the field saying this was a good event, a great event. Not only was it a great training and learning opportunity, but it was a feel-good event, and that's what people talked about the most, is how good it felt being there with their colleagues from all over the country. So with that, I'd like to ask Greer Horn to come up and maybe share a couple of thoughts with the group and also receive the collaboration award. Is Greer in the room? Is she on the way up? This is called the stall method. All right, so let me see here. Who's on the screen? Is, you'll do it? All right, there she is. Hey, listen, I was late too, no worries. Congratulations. Thank you so much for all the work you did.
Thank you. So if you worked on national conference, whether your name's on this list or not, will you please stand up? Because it took so many people in this room. So many people. All the people. So thank you all so much for, I'm not talking about Franklin. Thank you all so much for all that y'all did for a conference. It's not possible without everyone's support, whether it's direct or indirect. And so we really appreciate it. We had an amazing conference this year in Houston, and we're looking forward to next year in Orlando. So thank you so much for everything. And it takes everybody. So we appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Next time I'll give you a couple minutes to get yeah. No, seriously, thank you, Greer, for all that you do. And I tell you, the ones of you that were at the conference, you see Greer, I mean, she's like ice. I mean, nothing bothers her, nothing shakes her. And I will tell you, there are hundreds of voices coming out here at one time, along with many of you that are here that work this thing. So, Greer, thank you for your leadership. So finally, the third thing that I told you I wanted to talk to you about our 2018, what we call our mission metrics, and that is around our average daily attendance, registered membership, and teens, and we'll talk a little bit about revenue. So want to give you a look into how we finished the year last year, and as I said earlier, to talk to you a little bit about what we're thinking about for 2019. As you guys know, last year, 2018, we launched Great Futures 2025. In my opinion, some of you have heard me say this before, our most aggressive plan to date. And when I say aggressive, it's big, it's bold, and it is stretching us as an organization, as a movement. But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do, because for me, it's fundamentally is about two things. One is to build the strongest organizations possible, and two, to create the best experience possible for young people who come into the doors of Boys and Girls Clubs every afternoon. And this experience, if you will, this youth experience is indeed the guiding light of this plan. And before I jump into the mission metrics, I want to ask Elizabeth, and I don't want to put her on the spot, but I'm going to ask Elizabeth to come up and share with you, hot off the presses, some of you have seen the data, but the 2018 club experience score. So Elizabeth, will you come join me?
Good afternoon, everybody. So we administer the National Youth Outcomes Initiative survey every spring. So we consider our 2019 NYOI results to really be a reflection of what happened in the club in the year ending 2018. And I am pleased to tell you that this year, 40% of young people in our clubs reported that they are having an optimal club experience. So percentages are hard. Let me break that down for you in terms of what that really means. That means that on any given day, an additional 9,000 young people are entering the door of a club and having the kind of experience that is so incredible that it is likely to change their behaviors and to change their outcomes, to make them more academically successful, healthier, and more connected into their communities. And that is a tremendous testament to all of the work that is being done in the field, to really on the ground with frontline staff, with kids every day, with their managers, with their organizations, and with their boards, being committed to and understanding the incredible importance of program quality and the way that we treat our primary customer, which is the young people that we serve. And it is an incredible testament to all of you and all of the work that you do that we are seeing that needle move, and we are seeing incredible experiences for kids in clubs. So I want to thank you all.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So one more round of applause, because guys, that is really big news for us. So thank you, Elizabeth. So just a couple of highlights about 2019. One is starting with the club sites that we operate across the country. Last year, at the end of 2018, as you'll see to the far right there, we closed the year at 4,645 operating sites across the nation. And you'll see a couple of different things there in that last bar. Up at the top in the little gray box, it says 238. Those are our community impact programs. And if you back up a couple of years, you'll see we first started counting those in 2016. That was a membership requirement for a change for the entire movement that said anybody that operates as a facility calling itself a Boys and Girls Club has to be registered with Boys and Girls Clubs of America. That was not always the case. We made that change, and essentially it was all rooted in our safety agenda, because if we didn't know they existed, there was no way for us to ensure that every membership requirement as it relates to staff and background checks, et cetera, were being met. So that's why we separate those. One of the things going forward that you all will start to see and hear, and we all got to get this into our lexicon, is that we've got to start talking about these operating sites, because they're not separate. Now they have some different requirements in terms of, the hours that they operate in and that type of thing, but they still are registered Boys and Girls Clubs that have the right to call themselves such, right? So that's the difference that you're seeing there with the 238. So at the bottom of that, you'll see that we ended the year at 4,407 Boys and Girls Clubs. Something really interesting about that number. That number there is a record-breaking number of Boys and Girls Clubs for this movement ever. It eclipsed the high watermark of 2008, which I believe was 4,387 Boys and Girls Clubs. So that was a really, really good year for us as a movement. More importantly, a great year for kids, because with this many facilities that are open, it allows tens of thousands of young people to get access to this thing we call a Boys and Girls Club. So that's where we ended the year. You'll see here when all of these slides, I'll give you a 4 or 5 year look at where we are, where we're going, and where we've been, I should say. So 4,645 clubs. Now, this year, the one thing to note inside of new clubs last year, and I don't know if there's anybody in the room from the Native Services team, but Native Services last year, as you know, 20 plus, 26, 27 year history in Indian country. Last year, topped almost, they're just shy of 200, 199 Boys and Girls Clubs in Indian country that we still continue today to be the largest service provider to Native American young people or Native children in our country, which is a huge feat. And this organization, Native Services, has gone up and down in terms of the number of clubs, but we're at a place where we've built some tremendous sustainability in Indian country and a lot to be proud of there. So yes, thank you. So if you see Carla Knapp and anybody on our team, make sure you congratulate them, because as you know, if you've ever been on a reservation, some of these reservations is like being in a third world country. And it is a tremendous amount of work that they do to make sure that our Native kids have access to great programs in their home communities. This year's goal is actually on the bottom side of the slide at 2019, where we want to close the year at 4,425 clubs. And that does not include community impact programs. The good news as of Friday, when I got the report from Christina Love, we're at 4,424. So John is lowballing, so we'll adjust that for him when he's back in town. But seriously, really great news for us as a movement, and it really shows some sustainability here, because I will tell you, from 2008, when the world happened, we lost a lot of Boys and Girls Clubs and a lot of kids seemingly overnight, and it is taking us this long to get to a place where we're seeing year over year growth. So your work, obviously, and what is happening with our CEOs and boards at the local level. So that is our clubs, and we feel really good about this year's growth number. 4,424 right now really doesn't mean a lot. We see a lot of ebbs and flows, and we normally see normal attrition is somewhere between 70 and 80 clubs that close every year, and then clubs obviously fill those in with new growth. So 4,645 clubs last year. In terms of revenue, this is 2017. Many of you may know that we stopped counting, getting the finance information off the annual report 3 years ago, Elizabeth. 3 years ago. Now we get it from the 990, so that gives us a little bit of a delay. So this is 2017 numbers in terms of a little north of $2 billion. 2018, we're projecting that's going to be about $2.1 billion, and the 2019 goal in terms of collective revenue for the movement, including here at Boys and Girls Clubs of America, we're estimating about a 5% growth that will put us at about $2.2 billion. As an enterprise, which is no small feat, for here in terms of what Julie and her team does, but also what our local clubs do in raising enough revenue to provide services to the millions of young people that call Boys and Girls Club home. So that is our revenue. Mission metrics. This is obviously the one goal outside of the club experience that we pay a lot of attention to in terms of partnering with local clubs and really understanding what they do every single day and ensuring that they're serving more kids and serving more young people in a quality way. So what you have here on the left-hand side in blue is our registered members, and in the green, that is our community outreach. and you'll see the growth there over a 4 or 5 year period, and I mean pretty substantial. Now I will say community outreach. I mean there's some huge leaps there in terms of community outreach, and people say a lot of things about community outreach, but let me say this: to me, community outreach and what we see, community outreach is the pipeline for registered members, and registered members is the pipeline for ADA. So when I see that number jump, that creates a little bit of excitement for me, because I believe it's going to help us, local clubs, be able to recruit from that pool of young people that are accessing a specific service, and to rotate them over or move them over into the registered membership space. Last year, obviously, a huge growth in community outreach. A lot of that was simply in a couple of states, one being Utah. Many of you know the Net Smarts program. So the Utah clubs has Net Smarts in every school district in the state. So that creates a huge jump for us in terms of community outreach. But the big piece here is the consistent growth that we've seen. And if you look at the registered members, I would say that the drivers there were specifically our military clubs, where they saw about a 7,000 kid increase overall. Emerging markets, which is what you used to know as Club Advancement Service, saw an equal amount of growth, and substantial growth in Indian country again, as I said that earlier. So those were the key drivers in the registered members and community outreach space. Now, there are some challenges in all of these, and I'll just talk to you about all of the challenges in one in just a moment. But let me hit the other ones for you. In terms of teens, last year, obviously, we hit our goal of 2% growth in teens, but you'll see what has happened over the last 4 or 5 years in that space. And Kim Magical and many others in terms of the youth development team has done a great job in laying out a strategy for us, a multiple year strategy that has allowed us to partner with local clubs and helping them identify those places where those teens are, not only just getting them there as membership, but as a registered member, but getting them inside of clubs and ensuring that we're offering the right level of service that will keep them engaged in their local Boys and Girls Clubs. So a lot to be proud of with teens, because many of you here in the room will remember where we came off of a 10-year decline, not so many years ago, maybe I think 2 years ago, but 4 years ago, Teresa? All right, thank you. All right, thank you. But this has been a heavy lift for us as an organization. Is something that everybody in this room should be really, really proud of, because for me, here's why teens are really important. You can't say publicly out loud and believe it that in terms of who we are, when we say every child that comes to a Boys and Girls Club will graduate from high school on time with a plan for their future. We can't say that with any level of honesty if we can't keep them with us. That's why that goal is really, really important for us as a national organization. And it's something that we absolutely have to continue to focus on. The last one I'll hit it is ADA, and to me that's the real impact driver. When they're with us, they're coming every day. How long they stay, all of those things, as you guys know, make a difference. And the ADA space, although we fell a little short of the goal last year, most of that growth happened inside of our regional markets, with the Northeast region actually driving most of the growth that you see there. But no small feat in terms of what you're seeing there in terms of the multiple year growth of a little north of 9%. So here is a quick look at the official numbers for 2018, plus the goals that we had for the year. And as I just said, you see that we fell short a little bit in membership at ADA as it relates to the 2018 goal for the year. But it's important for us to note that a couple of things created some challenges and some vibrations for us. realize. And those were, in fact, our own strategy. So one can say we did it to ourselves, and the other is something we had really no control over, being natural disasters. So I referenced earlier that Great Futures 2025 is one of our most aggressive plans. And I'm sure every one of you have read every page of the operating plan. I think it's north of 40 pages now. But if you read through there, it is the most transparent plan that I believe we've ever put into the system, where every year we're saying, here are the things that we need to do. So if you think about some of these these initiatives that have created some vibrations for us as an organization, they also are impacting how we perform overall as an organization. So if you look down the left-hand side down here in the orange, there's a few things. One is closures. And these are not yes, I told you about natural attrition, but these are organizations that are not meeting the membership requirements for Boys and Girls Clubs of America. In fact, they are probably doing more of a disservice than a service, and we had to ask them to leave the family. And so that had an impact, and you can see what that was in terms of membership teams and ADA for closures. Mergers, which is our leading strategy, objective one, if you will, in strengthening organizations. And this is going to be something that will be with us for the next few years. But it does create some impact for us. And that we see usually in the first year, 18 months of a merger or consolidation. And then you'll start to see that flip if our data stays true to what we've seen over the last few years. Data cleanup. And Elizabeth assures me that once my club hub, and Beth, if she's in the room, when that comes into play, that this all will go away. But seriously, we do have some challenges there, and it's something that is not unusual for us, and it happens every year. But the good news is, for me, is if clubs are paying attention to it, they're watching their baseline, they want clean baselines. And for us, we want the same thing. We want the right data so that we are measuring things year over year, and we can really see if change is really happening in the system. So data cleanup, and then obviously natural disasters. And I'll pause there and say thank you to all of you that helped many of our clubs last year, from the devastating fires in Chico to the ones over in LA County, et cetera. So thank you for what you did there to support local clubs. But as you think about, where am I? There we go. So this impact, if these things here had not have happened to us in our own strategies, long term they're the right play, but in the short term, if those were not a part of what we were doing, you would have seen we would have either met or exceeded every goal that we had in the mission metrics, which is a pretty powerful thing. So 2018 mission metrics. So I got and just one thing that I'll say here in terms of how we're predicting these things. Closures, we will finish wrapping those up in terms of the ones that are not meeting membership requirements. There's some that are on improvement plans right now. If they don't make it in terms of elevating how they provide services locally, they will too have to leave the family. So we believe that we'll have all that stabilized by 2020, on the merger front by 2021, and on the data cleanup. And this is really the introduction of and the growth of my club hub in the system. We will see some of these things start to eliminate themselves, if you will, by the early 2020s. So we will see this again next year. So don't be surprised when Jim or myself or whoever's up here talking about it. It will show up again, and that's fine based on where we are in the strategy. 19 goals just really quickly, and you'll see those, and I'm sure we'll all see them soon on our desktops if they're not already there, in terms of the goals that we're looking at. And you may think 2% is small, but I got to tell you, it is really a heavy lift in terms of what we've got to accomplish every year and what we do accomplish every year in partnership with our local clubs. So you'll see the goals there for each one of those. I've already referenced revenue, but you'll see the others, and you will continue to see those going forward. So just a couple of things that wrap up, and if I have time, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. And in any strategy there, particularly one is as aggressive as Great Futures 2025, you're going to have some headwinds and you're also going to have some tailwinds. So just really quickly, some headwinds for us that are going to that will test us as a movement. First is the one around child safety, and you've seen and we've shared some information with you over the last several months. But the biggest thing there are these decades-old litigation cases that are showing up in clubs across the country, and how we really mitigate and help to mitigate against that and help our local clubs work through those. So that's going to be a big thing, and something that we're paying a lot of attention to as a national organization and and within the Child and Club Safety Team. On the local talent side, to me, our success lies squarely in the people equation, and that's the people equation here, and that's the people equation at the local clubs. And if we cannot attract the right CEOs at the local levels, we are going to be challenged. And although we've been able to stem turnover over the last few years, there's still some work to be done, particularly when we know today that in the next 3 to 5 years, 20% of our CEOs will hit retirement age, and we have no bench to speak of. And that's what we're really preparing for today, and emerging leaders, and preparing, recruiting new CEOs, et cetera, so that we can have the right leaders for the bench when it happens. And then the final thing when we talk about these headwinds is these new initiatives. And I'll talk to you a little bit about, the merger strategy, some of the things around closures, et cetera. And I tell you, here's what that's creating for us. One is creating this perception of a lack of transparency here at Boys and Girls Clubs of America, which, in my opinion, couldn't be any further from the truth. But it's a perception, and a perception is, for a lot, it creates a reality that they live in, and we live in it too, right? Because we own it, because we are the organization that is putting the strategies out in the field. So this lack of transparency. There's also a question in people's mind around the role of this national organization, and it's kind of this toggle between this federated model and autonomy and what that means. And I will say to you, for me, as I think about this federation, it's not just about our history, right, and how we were started as a movement. I believe it is a necessity in how we operate. We cannot be successful without this federated model and how we function today. But it does feel challenging because some of the strategies that we're putting out there are, feel different to clubs. And so for us, one of the things that we have to think about within all of these challenges is how do we start to tap those feelings down and those these misunderstandings down. And to me, it's around building deeper relationships or partnerships with local clubs. It is about a focus on how we present ideas and initiatives, because one of our board members said to me, and he said it very loudly, so I remember it, words matter. And he is absolutely right. Words do matter. So we have to think about that. That leads to how we communicate things going forward. So the final piece that I'll reference here are our tailwinds. You saw the mission metrics on the slides a couple of slides ago. You see the growth over a multiple year period. You see that in many places we have been able to, as a movement, sustain those growth. So I think that is indeed a tailwind for us. The other is My Club Hub and the team that works in partnership with Elizabeth. They're doing an amazing job in creating that, have created and now launching My Club Hub. And I will tell you how they did it will be a best practice for us as a national organization, because anytime you can get more than half of the organization weighing in and north of 700 people, if I'm remembering correctly, local professionals, leaders that are giving us advice, that's where the real wins happen, because then it's not a question around motive, it's not a question around any of those things, because there's been enough voice, local voice involved in it, and something that you will see us replicate over and over again going forward. And the final one I will mention is learning events. Obviously, from the new executive orientation that you guys all know about, to the youth development institutes, to club directors academies, our regional conferences, our national conferences, and everything in between, that is a piece that local clubs love, and that's a piece that we will continue to lean in on and innovate in terms of making sure that we're providing the right level of support and learning opportunities for every professional in this Boys and Girls Club movement. So 2018 in closing, I believe was a fantastic year. A lot of challenges that we had to work through, but you see at the end of the day, this movement was successful, and it was because of the partnership and the relationship that we have here as our 500 plus strong at the national office that are supporting those, north of 26,000 board members, north of 51,000 now professionals, local club folks, and well over 200,000 program volunteers that are working on behalf of young people every day. So I will start where I finished, but using my own words. Thank you very much for what you do every single day for young people. In most instances, we are the voice, we are the mom, we are the grandma, and we are changing the trajectory of America based on what we do. I will tell you, and I tell my teams this all the time, it's not many people in America that get to wake up every day and say they have the opportunity to change the trajectory of this country. And there's a lot that we're facing as a nation, but I will tell you what I know is that the Boys and Girls Club movement always stands on the right side of that, and I appreciate everything that you guys do every single day and whatever role you play here at Boys and Girls Clubs of America to make that a reality. So thank you very much. I'm pretty sure I'm close to being out of time, so because everybody up here is looking at me, and I'm saying I feel it, but all right, I'm out.
All right, thank you, Lorraine. And congratulations to the National Conference Planning Committee, Carla, and the Native Services team, as well as to each of us here on those 2018 mission metrics. The next, continuing with that momentum, we have an opportunity to have our mission moment. So I ask Patrick Mahoney to come down and do the introduction for our mission moment. Let's give Patrick a warm up as he comes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here today with everybody. I'm Patrick Mahoney. I am a DOD in the Metro Services team in the Pacific West. And I'm used to standing in front of a microphone. I'm pretty comfortable, but when it's talking about myself, not so much. So here goes. It's an honor to be with you here today to celebrate Pride Month and to be able to share a bit of my story with you, especially my passion around how crucial Boys and Girls Clubs are to the LGBTQ youth in our communities. First, I want to share some statistics with you that show that there's a lot of work to be done around providing support, resources, and safe spaces for LGBTQ youth. In Los Angeles County, where I'm from, 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ. I would assume that these statistics are comparable nationwide. LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than those that identify as straight. We have made significant progress in this country and globally with acceptance of LGBTQ identifying adults. The key word is adults. If we look a bit closer, the challenges that youth face continue to be strong, and LGBTQ youth are bullied at alarming rates. Some statistics say that 90% of out youth are bullied physically or verbally. This underscores the importance of striving harder to increase Boys and Girls Club's voice, that we are in fact the safest place for all youth, and that you will find a home to be accepted and grow in a Boys and Girls Club. It's amazing to me that 70% of Americans say that they would be okay with a gay president. Honestly, it's something that I never expected to see in my life. I was a teenager in the mid-90s where gay was synonymous with AIDS, and in my mind, death. That was a hard pill for me to swallow, and it made the mindless jokes in the locker room even more painful, as I knew it was a secret that I had to keep, and I hated it. I had suicidal ideation daily and no outlet to express myself or feel safe. As a teenager, not having an outlet or a safe space can lead to severe darkness. I was fortunate to have everything else going for me: a strong family unit, a comfortable life, and was a pretty popular kid, which all made it very tolerable to push through. My coming out wasn't particularly challenging, but it took a lot of work to break the constraints of internalized homophobia that I had been conditioned to in my youth. In my mid-20s, I was a victim of a violent hate crime that was a pivotal point in my life. The bruises healed, and I worked through the emotional pain and realized that I could continue to be a victim, or I could use the considerable relationships that I had built professionally and personally to make change. I joined the development board of the Trevor Project, an LGBT youth suicide prevention organization, the first step in my journey working with LGBTQ youth and youth-focused nonprofits. In 2008, California courts ruled in favor of marriage equality, but a referendum was put on the ballot to reverse this decision, Proposition 8, which coincidentally even rhymed with what it was: hate. Shortly before the vote, I channeled my anger and sadness into action for change. Now, I come from a family where we smiled for the camera and didn't really tell anybody our secrets, so this fire in me to be an activist was a little uncomfortable. But once the flame was lit, there was no putting it out. I emailed, this was before social media, everyone I knew in Los Angeles and said that I would throw a barbecue in my backyard in 2 days. We would have a couple of speakers from the campaign. I would provide the food, bring your own booze, and most importantly, bring your checkbooks. The measure passed and it became illegal to be married yet again in California. But that night, in my backyard, we raised $60,000. And I knew that this is what I wanted to do with my life: stand up for causes that I believe in. This began my journey into nonprofit, which eventually brought me to BCGA. Shortly after I joined Boys and Girls Clubs of America, I had the amazing opportunity to serve as interim CEO for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Venice in California. On my first day as CEO, the teens were hosting a talent show for their peers, staff, and parents. This is the night where I realized truly how special Boys and Girls Clubs were for LGBTQ youth. The first poem recited was by Ernesto, a junior in high school. Ernesto's poem described the pain of keeping his desire for another boy a secret and the shame that he felt. The last stanza of the poem brought me back to how I felt as a teenager and how most LGBTQ kids feel about their attractions. It read, "He doesn't know I see him. He doesn't know my name. I'm playing a new game, struggling to swim, diving deeper, pressure builds, crushing hard." I was so nervous for the reaction. When I saw his peers, who fit every different stereotype, erupt with applause and hugs, I knew I was somewhere special. As I learned about Ernesto's story, I realized that this was the only place that he felt safe and 100% able to be who he was. At home, he lived in a one-room apartment with 2 siblings and parents that would not accept him. He would have to hide his clothes and any outward expression until he came to the club, where he could fully be himself and be supported. Pushing through his own fear at the club and getting positive support in return helped Ernesto become a true leader. Throughout the following summer and his senior year, Ernesto served as a role model for his peers and younger members with a truly infectious energy that helped to attract even more youth to the program. Ernesto's electric pull was directly correlated to Venice winning a national award this year for increased teen attendance. Ernesto graduated high school last week, and I spoke to him on the phone, and he said that the Boys and Girls Clubs provided the love and family support to be able to push through the other challenges in his life and graduate near top of his class. This is one of only countless examples I could tell of how we create safe spaces, sometimes the only safe spaces for LGBTQ youth to thrive. In overseeing the judging of several regional and state Youth of the Year competitions this past year, it became evident to me that Boys and Girls Clubs provide crucial, oftentimes life-saving support for LGBTQ youth. We provide a place for creativity and expression to be nurtured and thrive in a positive environment. It is my hope that in sharing my story with clubs and with you, that we can create a louder voice nationwide so that all struggling LGBTQ youth know that if you're outcast everywhere else, there will always be an open blue door. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing your story and Ernesto's story. And continuing with our mission woman, we have Mrs. Lan Sergerblom, who will come and present to us. Thank you. Let's welcome Lan.
Hey, it's wonderful to be here. I live in Los Angeles. I think this is a prettier city. Well, I was in high school in Fallbrook, California, which was very rural. It is the avocado capital of California. And when I was 16, one of the teachers there asked me, would I like to teach at the boys, it was just called the Boys Club back then, the Boys Club. And I could do that after school, 2 days a week, and on Saturday mornings. So I said, yes, I would. And my parents were very happy because this is my first legitimate job, you know. And also I love arts and crafts, and so it was a good candidate for that. Well, as it would have it, there were really nice boys at the Boys Club back then, and they had a wood shop in the like studio area. And so there were all these wood tools, and they taught me how to use like the lathe and the bandsaw and the jigsaw and the sanders and the table saw, which is like really heavy duty, and all this stuff, and gluing stuff together and varnishing things. And this really paid off later. So, and also I was living, my mom had got divorced and remarried in 1 week, and I was living with my stepdad and my mom in the next town, Palma Valley, and it wasn't a happy or safe environment, neither nor. So, you know, high school has its good points, but sometimes you can't really relax there either. So it was nice to have another place to go, and we're just doing art. And so the boys said they wanted to know how to tie-dye because I knew how to do that. So I had them bring their white T-shirts from home, and I brought the dyes and the rubber bands and stuff and the pots. And we did tie-dye T-shirts. Everyone made their own, and they loved that. Everyone had their own T-shirt that they did. And one of the boys told me that was the most fun he had ever had at the club. So, but what I didn't know was I was going to move to San Francisco and go to the Academy of Art on Sutter Street in San Francisco in 1974, 75, and that the wood blocks and the wood technique and the varnish and all that was going to really pay off. So I did move up to San Francisco and went to that art college and was great. I became a part of the gay community center there. It was really just for everyone, anybody and everybody. It was an old funky building. They didn't even have a hot water heater, and it was really old. But I rented a room, and that was my dye studio. And my friend worked in the art gallery upstairs, Lee Mintley. And so I was there like every day. And at one point I had keys to the community center, so I could come and go, and if it was late. And at one point I even slept there for a couple of days because I was between apartments. So because I was there in-house, they said, do you want to be on the parade committee for 1978? We're going to have a big parade, and you can be the decorator. So Gilbert and I said, yes, we would be the decorations committee. And we're trying to figure out what we will do for decorations. And it turns out that there were flagpoles at the UN Plaza, 2 80-foot flagpoles, and then there was the reflecting pole at City Hall was lined by flagpoles. So it turns out that I suggested, why don't we make flags, because we've got all these poles, and I forgot something. I had changed my name back then to Fairy Argyle Rainbow, because I was so into rainbows and color, and I thought color was really healing for people and that everybody would like it. So we decided, we're going to make these rainbow flags, because it was just, to me, just seemed like normal. So we did, and it turns out that for the 80-foot flagpoles, we made 40 feet by 60 feet hand-dyed cotton muslin flags with 8 colors. And they were different from each other. One was rainbow stripes from fuchsia, red, orange, yellow, green, aqua, royal blue, and violet. And the other one had stars in the corner, like the American flag, because I love the American flag. And to make the stars in the corner, I had to make wood blocks, 2 matching wood blocks of stars with the backup, with the glue and everything that I learned, and folding. And I wasn't quite sure if it was going to work, but here's a picture, and there's some pictures in the back of the stars and stripes, and the other one in the background. And that's made with wood blocks. And also, not only did we get to make these flags, but I had a business myself of making clothes and dancewear for Capezio, and I had boutiques, and I had a special designer. And because I could make wood blocks, all kinds of them, I had a business, and that's how I supported myself. So learning how to use wood shop, having a nice place to go, having a job, made a big difference. Oh, yes. And this, pass that around. Okay, all right, we'll do the flag first. Hey. So we have this, it's not a hand-dyed cotton muslin flag, but it is a good flag anyway. So I want to present this.
All right, awesome. I want a cool name like Fairy.
I had a driver's license that said Fairy Argyle Rainbow on it.
And as a token of our appreciation, Lynn, we wanted to give you this.
Thank you so much. And here, I want to present this. Here, yeah. Yeah, will you, and we're going to turn it right side up. Yeah, that'd be great. So,
That's awesome.
this is a new painting I did of the rainbow flag. It's one of the photos that are at the back there. And this is my stars and stripes. And this and next month. And so I only made 8 prints, and they're all signed. So I'd like to present this to you. And this is the first time I've ever printed my artwork. So
Awesome.
get a couple first.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the Stars and Stripes. Yeah. Here. Oh, okay. How are we doing?
Are we good?
Oh, all right.
Too late.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lynn and Patrick, for sharing your story. We do have a couple of ways to, I'm a little taller, I guess, than everybody. We got a couple of ways we want to get involved for Pride Month, opportunities for national staff. As Patrick said, that is actually a national statistic that 40% of homeless youth are LGBTQ identifying, and as such, we are going to be partnering with Lost and Found Youth, which is an Atlanta-based organization whose purpose is to end homelessness for LGBTQ youth. Right now they are Atlanta-based, but maybe they will be able to expand to the state with given resources. But in addition to crisis support sorry, I'm looking at my list of things they do, which is exhaustive. They do crisis support and street outreach, and then they run a youth center where they offer safe base to stay, access to emergency clothing, food, hygiene supplies, showers, laundry, computer access, mental health services, referrals to other community services, and a lot more. And so what we will be doing is we have one event planned, June 19th. We will be going to their youth center, serving a meal and sharing it with the youth who are there. We will have some signups in the HR newsletter. There will be a link. There are limited spots available, but if you go into the sign up, there are opportunities to do more meals. So if we have a ton of people who are interested, there's actually no limit to how many of these we can do. They serve 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. So look for that. We will also be doing a supply drive for their youth center. Also more information in the HR newsletter. It'll be mostly food, household items to support what they do on site. And
on June 28th, which is the actual anniversary of the Stonewall riots, we will be having a documentary screening in Wint 3 of a documentary called Put This on the Map, which was done by documentary filmmakers in Seattle who got a group of young LGBT identified people to do this documentary to teach their communities, their families, and their schools how to actually rethink the way that we teach gender and sexuality. It's only about 40 minutes, and then myself, Greg Parker, and Irma will be facilitating a discussion afterwards, and there will also be refreshments, just in case. So it is a Friday. It's going to start at 1 o'clock. It's a great way to end your day and a great way to end Pride Month. So I really hope that everybody that's possible is there.
Thank you all. All right, our next agenda item, we made a change, is for My Club Hub, and I believe that is Dana Benjamin Allen. So Dana, if you come on down.
I'm just gonna bring this back down. It's okay. The minute I saw you come up, I was like, oh, we're in for a problem. So, Patrick and Lynn, thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing your stories. They were so beautiful. So, I'm just really glad to follow you. Oh, man. So thank you for sharing your gifts with us today. That wasn't part of the agenda. Let's talk about pricing, shall we? Great. So, I'm here today. Wow. I'm here today to talk a lot about milestones and collaboration. Oh, man. And oh. So on April 17th, I'm talking a lot about milestones and the future. So every slide that I'm presenting today has inevitably, thanks team, has inevitably a large group of folks involved. So you are likely going to stand up and get celebrated today because we are celebrating some really important stuff and talking about the future, which is all just tremendously exciting. So on April 17th, for those who opened the email, there was a message from Jim about the My Club Hub cost sharing scenario. For those of you who did not open the email, you have one. It went out on April 17th, and it's about the My Club Hub cost sharing scenario. This project and cost sharing and determining the cost was a 14-month-long process. It was not something we took lightly. It was not something that we took and did on our own. It was with a whole lot of folks, a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a whole lot of feedback from the field, and from Sam's team and Lauren. There were so many financial projections from the creative team to ensure that we did this right, that we honored every voice that was part of it. The cost-sharing milestone was a really significant part of this project that we all did together. So if you were part of either crafting the email, making the video, doing the cost-sharing scenarios, doing the projections, doing cost modeling, or in any meeting where you provided feedback, please stand so we can celebrate you and your hard work. So it is very likely that the slides I'm going to share today are going to create more questions, which is good because we are planning to do a lunch and learn in August. We're going to do one on site here, and we're going to do some online. So I promise I will not answer every question. I will not get across every point about this project. The point is to get you excited, want you to learn more, and then we'll see you in August where we get a full agenda. So the cost share, for those who weren't able to see the video or are unfamiliar with where we're at, there is 0.32% of organizations' operating expenses. There is also a minimum. So if an organization were to take their operating expenses, multiply it by 0.32%, which is multiplied by 0.0032, if it fell under $1,200, organizations will pay a minimum of $1,200. If an organization takes their operating expenses and multiplies it by that, and it's above $30,000, there's a maximum. Why? Because there is not an infinite amount of returns to get for technology, and we also believe that there is a minimum benefit for the cost of My Club Hub. There is a lot that is involved in that. It is far more than I could ever get across in 5 minutes, so we will talk a whole lot more. We are working a lot with DODs. We're working a lot to do conversations in August. But the two things to take away from here, which a lot of clubs have been asking about, are unlimited use of features and unlimited user accounts, so no one has to share user accounts and everyone will be able to get onto the system and not have to worry about if somebody left and then Dana and Valerie are sharing. Dana's gone and Valerie's still on, and therefore Dana can still access information. So the cost share model was meant to also enable or disable some of the big pain points that organizations have today, as well as a big indirect cost pain point of a 0% transaction fee. A lot of organizations are getting really hamstrung by their software systems, regardless of how many they're using, as it relates to processing credit card fees through their systems. So the cost sharing model is a big conversation that we'll be doing a lot more in detail about in our Lunch and Learns in August. So we encourage you to bring your questions and we'll gladly answer them. The next piece is around data sharing. This was a big, and will continue to be a big and wonderful conversation around what organizations are putting into their system, what BGCA is going to be able to do with that information, and how we're going to be able to interact and support organizations and club professionals on a really fundamental basis. We're not going to be talking to clubs about how they got their data. We're not going to be talking about clubs about, are your numbers right or your numbers wrong? We're going to be able to talk to them about what the numbers mean, because we're going to be able to help them at the ground level when it comes to data collection and the actual infrastructure of their data systems, processes, and standard operating procedures. That's huge. So for DODs and field ops folks on the phone, I know you were texting me before, What this means is that you will have access to real-time information about your organizations, so you can be there in the moment to help them out when they need you the most. So what this picture is meant to show is what we will be able to get at the BGCA level and how we are going to be able to use that information in conjunction with other data sets we have. So BI team, my Club Hub, IT, we have a huge project on the other side of the house to make all of these things come together to make us stronger, to then make local organizations stronger. And so that is what this image is meant to represent. And you'll see down below that the one place and organizations helped us build this image and this discussion is that staff names and their contact information will be shared with identifiable information. So we have access to, hey, you've got a new art director. They signed up today. They just got a My Club Hub login. Great. Let's make sure we connect them with the right resources. Do you have the new playbook for arts? Wonderful. Tremendous. We have that information in real time. This is how we are developing the software. It's a really, I promise I'm almost. So My Club Hub and the way we are developing the software is to get it into the hands of clubs as soon as possible. So there are some clubs out there, and there are clubs that may have asked for a Ferrari, and they are pumped, and they want that Ferrari. And they said, you know what, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, we need something that has wheels that gets us from point A to point B. And so for the clubs that need the Ferrari, we're going to say, you know what, that's great, you wait for that Ferrari. But there are some clubs that could get a skateboard because they need 2 wheels and they can get from point A to skateboard. So we are starting with the release of a smaller version of the software, and then the clubs that are waiting for the Ferrari are going to trust and work with the clubs that are using the skateboard as we keep building the software out. Hopefully this was helpful. It's resonated really well with CEOs in presentations, so I just wanted to show you what resources. It has! I presented it to 12 of them last week. They were like, this makes so much sense. So the other reason behind me showing you these slides is to let you know what resources are available to you should you be asked these questions. Because myself and Beth and Elizabeth and Natasha and Mel, we are only 4 people, and so we need your help should you be asked these questions in the future. We are about to begin piloting the software. So at National Conference was our big debut to show what My Club Hub is, what the screens look like, to begin testing the features and getting it in the hands of club professionals as soon as possible. And starting this summer, the software is going to be going live in clubs with their data, with their staff. So I know, woohoo, it is, indeed. So again, the progress and the conversations in August will be much more in depth, and we will be able to talk a whole lot more through this stuff. But just know the big headers are pricing and cost sharing has been announced. We are building the software iteratively so that we make sure we get it right, and feedback from clubs are a huge part of that process. We are piloting beginning this summer, and come August, you will get to see, I know, I'm ending on the dashboard. You're gonna get to see the software, and we're gonna play around with what it can do, what clubs have requested from it, and which club actually contributed to which part of this screen. So everything on this screen can be contributed back to the club professional that asked for it to be designed. So that is the update. Stay tuned if you are interested in learning more. We'll see you at Lunch and Learns in August. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. All right. Next, we have Jerice, who will give us our child and club safety update.
Oh, okay. I'll try to go quick. I know we're a little bit behind. It is Lorraine's fault. I know. Hi, everyone. Thank you. So first, I'd really like to say thank you to everyone who completed the Child and Club Safety Training that we hosted live in April and then went online in May. Thank you to the comms team for helping support that. And if you haven't completed it, please log into TDC today. We will be watching. So, that training, I want to just kind of share a little bit about what's happening in safety to help you understand that training wasn't isolated. We're doing a lot of different things, particularly with clubs and, of course, with our staff here to help you understand the why behind some of the choices that we make, some of the resources that we develop, and the direction that we take, particularly when it comes to safety. Ultimately, our goal is to get to a zero tolerant, a zero incident culture. But to do that, we have to really hone in on all of the safety culture and building that safety culture and that momentum in local clubhouses. So a big piece of that is, one, ensuring that everyone in this room understands what our safety vision and directives are, but also so that you can help support and share those things with your clubs. A big piece, of course, when it comes to building a culture of safety is increasing capacity. And so we've done a lot of work around, one, helping clubs understand what their safety concerns are, helping them build out really quality safety improvement plans, and helping them integrate those into their overarching plans for their organization moving forward. And a lot of that we can't do without the folks that are in this room. A big part of safety is everything we do in youth development. We have to fund safety through our resource development. We have to be able to use our safety tools through technology, and everyone in this room really has a big piece of this. So I want to make sure that everyone knows it's not just the 7 folks on the Child and Club Safety team, but it's each and every one of you in this room and everyone throughout our movement that really help make and take safety from our priority to our value. I also wanted to share a little bit about what you'll see moving forward with Child and Club Safety. We will not stop reacting and helping clubs through critical incidents, but safety is so much more than that. We've done a lot around engaging our local clubs with new resources and tools to help them really integrate safety into their daily operations, into meetings, into overarching plans. But we've also really started to work really closely with governance across safety, as many of you do. Big shout out to all the folks in strategic leadership development. I can say those words together, because they've really been integral as we've started to really press on the safety committees and building out those resources. We do think that the safety committees, the boards across this organization are really going to be pivotal and integral to how we elevate safety and really create that culture within organizations throughout the entire space. We're also, and I think you've heard us talk a little bit about this, and later this year we'll be releasing for comment new optimal safety standards. And what that is, it's building upon the membership requirements that we already have in place for safety. So it's going beyond background checks, it's going beyond insurance and policies, but really getting into what a safe clubhouse looks like, and ensuring that, what's the number again, Lorraine? 4,700 something, that every one of those sites is safe, and that we understand what safe looks like when each and every one of us walks through one of those blue doors. So you'll start to see more of that from our team. And a big piece of that is really on how we deliver that, particularly through technology. So we will also, in January, we'll be releasing for everyone's use the new online safety assessment tool that will help organizations not only assess what safety looks like in their own sites, but also help others throughout the organization play a supportive role in that as well. So really enabling local unit directors, enabling our safety committees, our board chairs, our board members to really walk through and do complete assessments of sites to really help us gain that line of sight into clubhouses, not only to understand what we're dealing with, but also so that we can help improve, because as my friends in youth development tell me, it's all about continuous quality improvement. Yes, I've learned. You'll also, and we'll talk a little bit about this in a moment, but we're really pressing hard on training and resources as well, and really developing additional pieces to help clubs support throughout this process. And training is going to be a really big component. So again, thanks for the training that you already did, but we'll be asking you to do a little bit more. And you'll start to see more and more from us, particularly around the marketing communications pieces. So if you've opened up, I hope so, the Connections magazine or the newsletters that go out, safety has been included in each and every one of those. Because the more that we talk about safety, the more we all think about safety, the more we are safe. And so the one thing I wanted to make sure that I drove home a little bit is that, none of this, again, is something that we have done on our own. We have used the support and needed the support of every vertical within this organization, from youth development, from our technology team to finance, to our marketing and comms. All of those pieces play not only an integral part in safety for Boys and Girls Clubs of America, but how we also relay safety messaging to our clubhouses. And so a big piece of that, of course, is going to be around enhancing the technology we already have, really honing it on the education and training pieces that we have, and really leveraging those partnerships. So happy to hear about the local partnership here in Atlanta, because all of that comes together. And so we will continue to work to ensure that we create more and more of those partnerships and help support where needed. I am speeding through this because I know that we are short on times, but the last piece that I want to make sure that everyone understands and knows is that last month we launched a new sex abuse prevention training. Yay! That's right. So this is free to all of our clubs. We announced it at National Conference. It is available on Spillett University. Thank you, Spillett University team, for helping us get this up and running. So we have 13 courses that are available online for free. Every club director, every CEO, every board chair is able to log on to Spillett University and take any of these courses. They're all online, they're all interactive. You must pass a quiz in order to move forward. And each one of them covers something a little bit different. We're really focusing on recognizing red flags, understanding what safety looks like in clubs, engaging local boards. What does safety look like during a summer camp in sports? So all of those pieces are there. I also encourage you, if you haven't taken a look, certainly log on to Spillett to check those out. However, we have selected a few just for you, and you'll be getting a message from HR about which courses we'd like everyone in Boys and Girls Clubs of America to complete, and that'll be available in TDC as well. Because also for my friends in youth development, I've learned that it's important to model. And so we are modeling the way, I see you, Meg. We are modeling the way, particularly when it comes to safety and our abuse prevention. So we want to make sure that everyone in this room understands what we expect from our clubs, so that they understand what that is too. So we have a great team on the ground. So if you have any questions, certainly reach out to me, certainly reach out to all of our youth, child and club safety directors as well, and Rivers can also answer your questions in the building. So I think I did that in 5 minutes.
So thank you, Jerice, for emphasizing our number one priority or sharing the information and updates. And thank you also for your leadership. I'll ask now for Frank and Elena to join me as we provide the national conference update. Frank and Elena, join me for the national conference update.
That didn't look like our slide.
Who goes first? Okay.
You in control of that.
Good afternoon. Last month, 1,998 people gathered in Houston for our annual national conference. The conference is a time for our movement to connect, celebrate, and learn. We brought industry experts to facilitate sessions on the latest in nonprofit and youth development topics, covering everything from how to use esports to engage more youth, to donor trends, to board leadership, to building resilience in staff. In addition to the main conference, what a lot of people don't always realize is that we host several other learning events tailored to our key audiences. Things like our Metro Leadership Summit, our Frontline Staff Training Day, our Native Summit for all those on native lands, our Corporate Partner Summit for those who support our work, and of course our Military Leadership Institute. In all, 280 organizations were represented in Houston, most not surprisingly from the Southwest, followed by the Pacific and the Southeast. To give you a taste of the conference, we have a couple short videos that we want to play for you, starting with how we kicked off our event and how we have for the last 3 years with a service project to give back to the community.
Today we are having our annual bike build where we will be giving bikes to 3 clubs here in the Houston market. So we're doing Greater Houston, Metropolitan Houston, and Resorius County.
Getting kids on bikes is the number one way to give kids freedom, give kids some responsibility. Going good. Is this number one? Number one, so we're still figuring it out.
4 down and 246 to go. This is something that I wish I could do more of because this is truly amazing, and WWE always does this and gives back to the community, so I'm very humbled and honored to be a part of that. Hello, Boys and Girls Club!
I was a club kid, so I know how important it is that somebody cares about you and cares about your well-being.
For me, it's say thank you to everybody that came out to help. We've got our club professionals, we've got our folks from WWE, UPS, Lowe's, and Trek. So we're super excited to have everybody out here today. It's going to mean so much to the kids that are going to get these bikes.
The history of the day of service goes back.
Today we are having
goes back since Jim Clark took over as our leader. He wanted to make sure that every national conference, that as an organization, we came in and left a legacy. We left a project for either the community and young people. We've left 250 bikes for our young people of Greater Houston. One story that I'd like to share is that these were fantastic bikes called Trek bikes, and we gave out 12 bikes to young people at the ceremony. And there were 6 boys and 6 girls, and we had these bikes set up, and we had ready, set, go. And the boys ran to the boys' bikes, and the girls ran to the girls' bikes. But one boy started crying, and he was still tough. He was tough, and he was crying, and his tears were coming down. So he's standing next to me, and I go, young man, why are you crying? You just got a bike. He goes, I want that bike. And I said, well, that's a girl's bike. And he goes, I want that bike. And I said, okay, let me talk to the young lady. And he goes, no, she's not going to give it to me. So I said, okay, why do you want that bike? And he started crying. He's frustrated. And he goes, it's Mother's Day coming up, and I want to give a bike to my mother so she can get healthy. And woof, you just saw like the wrestlers. One of the wrestlers, Titus O'Neil, was like, get him a bike now. Get him a girl's bike. I said, yo, we got 250 downstairs. We're going to get him the girl's bike. But there's so much effort into their service. You heard about the sponsors, Trek, UPS, Lowe's. But so much effort go into this project. And the project you see out there is led by our queen of day of service, Latrice Coy. Give Latrice Coy some love out there for all she does every year to do so. Another great part of the conference is our Alumni Hall of Fame, and the Day of Service and Alumni Hall of Fame are conference staples. The Day of Service starts the conference. The Alumni Hall of Fame is kind of the emotional connection to the event. Wednesday starts with Jim Clark with the State of the Union, the State of the Movement, and it's always uplifting, and it's always cascading, looking forward of what we're doing as an organization, how we're going to be great moving forward. And then comes the Alumni Hall of Fame, which really bridges that. It looks like adults, people who have succeeded in life in many ways, and how the over 2,000 people in the audience had an impact on those people as they were kids and how they grew up to be successful adults. We had a great class. You'll see some of them in the last video that we'll show today. But there's one story in here that's really important, especially for our youth development professionals, as you've introduced us to this kind of social wellness, this concept of not only it being safe, but how do we keep kids safe emotionally? A young lady there named Denise White, who came out of the Boys and Girls Club of the West Coast, who now is the president and CEO of EAG Sports, really one of the largest sports marketing agencies in California that's run by a female, said that when she was a young lady and started at the club, she was separated from her twin sister. She was separated. Her mother could not raise them. And she was separated at a young age. And when the only thing that saved her was going to the, at the time, Boys Club that transitioned to the Boys and Girls Club. And it wasn't any one program that saved her. It wasn't any one program that kind of supported the anger she had in her heart and the frustration. It was just the staff there that made her safe, emotionally safe, where she could share how painful that experience was, but also supplemented that with caring adults, caring programs that helped her become the successful lady she is today. And at 19, she had her reunion with her twin sister and celebrated that. So it was a great story, and the Alumni Hall of Fame does that for us. Now, there's a lot with these two events. Day of Service and the Alumni Hall of Fame drive a lot of metrics for us, and I'll share some of that. But the Alumni Hall of Fame is really led by two people, Maggie Hernandez and Shire Dickerson back there. If you could just thank you for your work. A lot of people are involved with this, but our social media metrics were outstanding. We had over 78,000 social media impressions led by Tiffany Rivers. Tiffany, where you at back there? And we really had an outstanding, our media impressions were outstanding. We had over 186 media mentions, which translated to 103 million media impressions for Day of Service and the Alumni Hall of Fame. Tiffany, where are you, Ashley? Where's Ashley? Ashley back there who helped make that happen with Sarah. And the last thing we do, we call ourselves Substance, Sizzle, and Salute. So part of the sizzle is to have a party. And for the first time since we were in Houston, we had to do it big. John said, do it big. So what we usually have is a party in a hotel. John said, no, we're not doing it in a hotel. You see that park across the street? We're doing it in the park. We said, yeah, we're going to do that in the park. Yeah, we want band, we want music, we want food, we want balloons. And so we set out to do a party in the park. We had an incredible band out there that provided incredible entertainment. But to do a party in the park, we said, well, where are people going to sit? And we said, we're not going to invest in chairs. So what are we going to do? Invest in towels. So everybody has a towel behind their chair. These are the towels that we presented to everybody at the national conference as a national conference gift. But it was for the purpose of everybody sitting in the park and having a good time. But the band was so good, Emerald City, that nobody sat, everybody sweated. And there's a little video that we won't show, but Jim Clark is on the stage dancing. We had to delete that video because his dance moves are detrimental to safety, and so we eliminated it. But that party could not have been done without incredible support from one person who really let it out. Camilla Muhammad, where are you, Camilla? Camilla led that out and did an incredible job making sure the entertainment, people got fed, there were parties, all types of stuff. And so now I'm passing it back to Salute.
Thank you, Frank. Also, as you heard during the national conference, we had our military connected family. So if you're not familiar with, that's right, Yoo-hoo for the military family that joined us. If you're not familiar with the Military Leadership Institute, it's our opportunity to invest in the professional development of our CEOs and our BGCA affiliated staff. And it was the first time in about 4 years that they were integrated component of our overall national conference. We received great feedback from our participants, and one of the things that they enjoyed being a part of the national conference and being able to enjoy the many great activities that took place during the conference. From a programmatic standpoint, we offered sessions on the CDA as well as our partnership overview. And as you can see reflective in the pictures, it was an opportunity during the luncheon sessions to recognize those sites who had best practices in the success of our overall partnership as well as some of the BGCA mission metrics that we talked about earlier. So that's the military leadership involvement. The next slide, as we heard earlier, the next conference is in Orlando in 2020. So the collaboration award that was provided at the beginning of this national staff meeting, we hope to see a greater influence and more names on the list because we know collaboration is key for the continued success of our national conferences and on all of our events. So thank you for that. And I think, are we going to skip the next video? So we have time. We will do the video. I guess push play, right? Got it.
525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear.
What a great week we have planned. Thank you so much for being here.
One of those presidents once said, if we can start youth on the road to character, we will have done more to cure our national ills than either subsidies or security. That president was Herbert Hoover, one of the earliest chairmen of the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and he happened to also be my great-grandfather.
And you and your staff work tirelessly to deliver the best possible programs. But it takes courage to say that we can do better. So as a movement, we're committing to a culture of learning, innovation, continuous quality improvement to make sure that we can always do better.
What a great Alumni Hall of Fame class we have this year. We have a U.S. Army colonel who's learned to believe he could be a leader. We have business leaders from the healthcare and the media industries. We have a star NFL quarterback, and we have a star NFL running back. And we have two trailblazers in the fields of sports management and sports entertainment.
You never know who you're going to impact, in what ways, how you're going to impact that kid. Keep on leading, keep on doing what you're doing, because you know why? You're the blessing, you're the village that raises our kids. when daddy or mama can't be there. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
I think it's pretty much been said. I love Boys and Girls Clubs. I can't imagine any other type of career. The people are so caring, and so it's important that we invest in the welfare of young people and that we do what we can to make sure that they have every opportunity to realize their potential as productive, responsible, and caring citizens. I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity.
It started inside out, yeah. I'm floating around in ecstasy, so don't stop me now. Don't stop me, 'cause I'm having a good time, having a good time. I'm a shooting star leaping through the sky like a tiger, defying the laws of gravity.
Awesome. Awesome. Great success. All right. All right. All right, next, Ms. Tawana Myers, who will give us an update on our 2018 employee engagement update. So, T?
Good afternoon. All right, now it's 3:30 in the afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. So this will be really quick, but honestly, I want to kind of just go off the script a little bit, and it relates to the employee engagement survey. But I also want to, when we have these meetings, they're a great opportunity for us to hear updates and also just to come together as a national staff and just reflect on some things. And hopefully, when you know it's a great meeting is when you take some things away. I've been sitting here listening, and Lorraine, from the 2018 mission metrics you gave and the 2019 goals, listening to your story, Patrick, as well as Lynn, you sharing your story, watching Dana tear up, even a national conference. This employee engagement survey was for the purpose of gaining your feedback so that we can create a better work environment for our staff. And what we have to remember with all the works and the goals that we have in front of us, that it's important that we do engage our staff as a national staff, give kudos to everyone in this room and those who are not in the room for everything you do. And again, that's what this employee engagement survey is about. It's about recognizing the talent that's in the room, creating some support, and just, again, being appreciative of what you're doing and how we can move forward. So thank you so much for your commitment to the employee engagement survey and allow me to share this quick update with you. So we're just about 2 days shy of 4 months since we started on the National 2019 Employee Engagement Survey. So I wanted to give you just a quick update as to where we are right now and where we're going. So as I mentioned, we did this survey between February 13th and 27th. We've had some survey updates since then. There was an email communication that came from HR sharing our overall top 3 strengths and opportunities. We also then began to share those survey results with the ELT around in March of this year. Jim also shared an email communication that went out yesterday, so hopefully you all have had a chance to really look through that email, and you also heard in his messaging the importance of us really looking at this employee engagement survey, using that feedback to create some continual engagement of conversation between all of our staff and moving the needle forward, not just now, but there's a period of 12 months, 18 months really, to kind of see some return in what we're proposing and how we move about. So please take time to look at that email and really read the words that Jim personally conveyed to everyone. Also, we've had some survey results that have been shared. So again, we shared a high-level overview with Jim and the SLT and national staff around March. We also had some org-wide leadership. So Phyllis and I hosted meetings with each of your division leaders and shared what those department and division level results look like. And then what we did is we asked for them to facilitate meetings with you as employees to share those department level results and then to engage with you in some conversation about some opportunities as well as the strengths for your team. If you have not yet had those meetings scheduled or participated in those meetings, please speak to your direct supervisor and senior leader for your division. I know there are 1 or 2 that are coming up, but it's important that you do see those results. So be sure to follow up and hear more about that. And then also in May, the senior leadership team also identified the priority opportunity for the organization. That is also reiterated in the email that Jim shared yesterday. And then again, as I mentioned, we asked all of our leaders to meet with you as teams, as departments, to share your opportunities and your strengths, and then to identify 1 to 2 priorities
priorities across your department that you would like to engage collectively as national staff. So not just your leaders looking at solutions and opportunities and how to address those, but also all of us coming together and identifying those things and moving out on those. So that should be happening as well. Next steps is for the organization. There will be a few focus groups that will engage in some root analysis around our organizational priority, as you saw referenced in Jim's email yesterday. And then we will also track the division, department level opportunities that you have identified. Again, leaders are hosting those meetings with employees. There are 1 to 2 opportunities that you're determining as a department, how can we move this forward? How will this affect our team, and what are some solutions that we could have there? We will be tracking those within HR as well as with your senior and extended leadership team to share some best practices among us, as well as how we can move that needle. There will be action planning, there's implementation, evaluation, and follow-up, and then certainly communication. That's why I'm standing here today, and I will at every meeting just to share with you quick updates on where we are. As a division department, again, I mentioned we've shared these results with your leaders. If you have not already engaged in a meeting, please be sure to follow up with your leaders to make sure that you see those results, and then you will have the same pattern among your department as well around that action planning and next steps. And I will continue to provide updates to teams, and that is the last of my slides. If you have any questions, again, please see your supervisor and leader, and then certainly contact myself or Phyllis Austin.
All right, Mr. Sam, come on down to provide our 2019 year-to-date financial update.
Yeah, so we're just going to cover one slide here because I think this was all conspiracy to have me go toward the end. So we're out of time, so I can't do as many jokes. Let me, we'll just skip to this one. Now, I will say I want to make one clarification. I actually brought the towels as giveaways, but apparently Frank and Elena tried to take credit for those. So if you don't have one on the back of your chair, please come up and grab one after. So, all right, so the card, does everyone have this on your chair? This is the only thing I'm going to cover. So what is this? So we actually have shared this with the board and trustees, the governors and trustees, because they said, hey, can you just give us something simple that we can use when we talk to other people about the movement? Could be newer trustees, it could be people we're recruiting. And so what this does is break down our expenses into 3 main categories. That's the blue, orange, and green. So the 82.7%, what is that? That is what we would call our program club benefiting percentage. You can find these numbers or you can calculate them. It comes from our statement of functional expenses, which is at the back of our audited statements, which were published a couple weeks ago online. But within that category, you have the program club benefiting support. So what is that? So directors of organizational development, our program, our curriculum, all of that support that impacts some of this is a judgment call, but impacts the member, face-to-face specifically, has a direct program or club benefit to it. The direct dollar for dollar pass through. So that piece, that's literally here 38 cents of every dollar we take and in turn pass through to the member organizations. So that's a very powerful number. I can tell you we've benchmarked against other nonprofits. You would be hard pressed to find any other nonprofit consistently doing that in our space. As a rule of thumb, just so you know, I mean, you can look at Better Business Bureau, you can look at Charity Watch. Generally, the minimum would be 2/3. A target is generally for the better nonprofits 75%, so that 82.7% is significantly above both of those figures, so we should feel very proud about that. The 7.2% management in general, so that would be overhead, what people typically call overhead that doesn't have a direct impact necessarily, so our accounting staff, our financial planning and analysis staff, right, while we do those things, and I feel proud about those areas, we would categorize them into management in general, along with some other areas. That leaves total fundraising, the 10.1%. We break that down further into integrated direct marketing, which is 2.7%. And then the fundraising without IDM is 7.4%. The reason we break them down is the fundraising without IDM is historically our traditional fundraising vehicle. That's why we say it generally costs us 7 or 8 cents on the dollar to raise funds. Integrated direct marketing isn't necessarily the most cost-efficient vehicle for fundraising, but that's really to develop the grassroots fundraisers across the movement. So that's a newer program, but that's why we break that out. On the back, which is on the right side of the screen, a couple more points here. So $2 billion was our movement-wide revenue for 2017. Lorraine covered that earlier. If you pulled our financials, right, if you looked at our audited statements, you would find about 10%, sometimes less, sometimes a little more, flows through our official audited statements. The rest actually flows through the member org financial statements, right? So from that measure, we are a very decentralized, federated movement. So like to keep that in perspective. A few other points that we should be proud of, because sometimes if you went back to the front and you looked at fundraising, some other nonprofits out there have a fundraising percent of 2%. Now, how do they get there? So in this first bullet here, only about 5% of BGCA's total revenue comes from membership dues. The orgs that have a 2% fundraising ratio generally get there by charging significant membership dues to the member organizations. So they pass that burden on to the member orgs, whereas we don't do that. Only about 5% of BGCA's total revenue comes from membership dues. So it's a little bit of a mathematical game. Does everyone understand what I just said? Because it's a very important point. So when someone says, well, why isn't your fundraising ratio 2 or 3%? I generally will pull up that nonprofits, or they're generally referring to 2 or 3 different nonprofits, not to name any one in particular. If you looked at YMCA, great organization, but 60% of their total revenue comes from membership dues, right? If we wanted a 2% fundraising ratio, we could very easily not raise as much in the private space, charge 70 million in dues versus 7 million in dues to member orgs, and that would all go over swimmingly, right? So we're not going to do that, and I would tell you that our structure is obviously a much better structure. Approximately 67% of BGCA's revenue comes from private sources, what I was just mentioning in terms of going after the private space. And then just to put what I mentioned earlier in dollars, local clubs receive about $65 million per year from BGCA in direct dollar for dollar pass-through. So that's it. Any questions? No questions. Everything clear? Good? All right, grab a towel on the way out.
All right. So our final agenda item instead of our legal update. So if we'll ask, we'll ask Claire to come on down, and we'll keep advancing the slides for you. That's it. Yeah.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We are almost at the end, and normally I would be super nervous that this was the slide I had to present when we're 20 minutes over and we just followed Sam. But then I remembered I'm hilarious. Lawyers have jokes, and one long-winded organizational representative speaking is enough for this group, I think. So some of the legal terms are really actually funny. If you want the slides, I can send them to you. I'm actually just going to introduce really quickly the new governors and trustee that were approved by the board this last board meeting. The first is Andra Rush. She is the CEO and chair of Rush Trucking Company. It is really incredibly the largest women-led organization in Michigan and one of the largest Native American-owned corporations in America. Since 2002, she's been a Midwest trustee, and she is a Native Services Ambassador for BGCA. Her leadership was recognized by President Obama in his State of the Union address in 2014, so we are really lucky to have her on board. Our second new governor is V.S. Sundaram, who is the founder and CEO of Sundaram Development. He actually, on his LinkedIn profile right now, has like 3 jobs, including being Snagajob's Chief Revenue Officer, so how he gets this done, I don't know. He has a long history in tech startups, He originally founded a company that was acquired by our old IT partner Leapfrog, and then he, ironically, spent some time with Leapfrog's replacement, Mindshift, as their sales vice president of sales. So we are lucky to have him as well. And finally, we have a new trustee for the Southeast, who is Jill Robinson. She is in her second season with the Braves, serving as the CFO, which oversees all IT and finance functions. She also manages investment and strategy for the Battery, which is incidentally where I spend a lot of money on tchotchkes for my children. So she is doing a great job with fundraising for that. Good job, Jill. And she has a passion for career development and supporting women in the workforce, so I think she will be a valued voice in our group of trustees. As you may know from previous reports of the Board Governance and Engagement Committee, trustee diversity and engagement has been a top priority for the committee. And with Jill's arrival to the group of trustees, we now have 37% alignment with our diversity initiatives amongst the trustees, which is awesome. And 90% of our trustees now have individual engagement plans, and they've identified volunteer opportunities with local clubs and advocacy efforts with GR. So a lot of progress made in that group by Julie and her team. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Claire. Thanks to everyone who's joined us online. Thanks to those who are watching online. I want to remind you a couple of things. There are cookies in the back. There are shirts for sale. And if you're wearing a Pride t-shirt, the committee asks that you join them outside for a group photo. So thank you all. And until next time, onward and upward. Thank you.
Great job, thank you.
Hello? 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 Hello?